Yes.
Ooh. Very exciting. Okay, that's a bit of tidying up here. Yeah, nothing worth keeping there. Nope. So yeah, as you can see, I have. I thought I'd start with a finished painting this week, and then just sort of then it could just be me talking. You won't have to watch me doing any work. No, quite the opposite. This is a little painting I did, which I wasn't 100% happy with. That goes with that, doesn't it? So I'm going to go back over it today, but I'm going to, because there's some fairly dry paint here, I'm going to do a bit of glazing. It means I can use some of the transparency of oil. That's all coming off, right? Don't worry about that. And then reintroduce some marks and colours that are already there, and also cover some others up and change the hardness of edges and sort of the close relationships of some of the tones. Now I have got here some Prussian blue, which has been on the palette for a while and been thoroughly ignored. So it can be a bit of a tricky colour to work with because it's just so strong. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about transparency and where and when is that important, and yeah, it doesn't always matter. Oh, I'm going to leave that there for a bit of black. And sometimes it's very important, and so with glazing, understanding transparency is kind of vital. I haven't got any gloves on yet, but I'm going to put some on now. All of this paint is begging for the opportunity to smear itself all over my hands. Just can't wait. So yeah, so a lot of glazing is about controlling, not just adding another colour on top, or building layers of colour, although that does fall under that category, but also controlling the amount of transparency and what else you introduce, how much of the underneath layer survives and shows through, how much it's changed or simply added to. So the existing painting I've got here, I'm not happy with 100%. There's things in there which I quite like and I'm going to keep. I quite like the composition of it. That's okay. And the subject matter. And the basic drawing, sort of, you know, how I've found my way to particular shapes and areas within the image, you know, where the colour lands, where the lights and the darks are. Some of that stuff is fine, but it's not interesting enough. So I can do more with that. And most importantly, I can get a more fluid and I think I likened it to ice cream earlier. Is that at the moment I've got a soft scoop straight out the freezer and I want Mr. Whippy. So yeah, it doesn't make any more sense now than it did when I said it, but yeah, I want some more luscious and flowing liquid paint. I want that to be very visible. So colours I have at the moment: titanium white, opaque. That's an opaque colour. Means if it's opaque, it's going to be at least a little bit cloudy. If it's mixed in with a is that Windsor lemon or cadmium lemon? Yeah, so that's going to be fairly opaque. Cadmium yellow, I'll put that with it. Fairly going to use them. Fairly opaque. That is a bit of mixed colour. I'll put that with these, the creamy ones. This is Indian yellow. That is a transparent colour. That is going to be useful in a glaze. Cadmium red, opaque. That's going to be a bit cloudy. So there's a few things I'm going to need. Okay, I'm skipping one here. That's Viridian, or in this case cyanine green. Transparent, Prussian blue, transparent. When it gets to earth colours, it's tricky. Most of them are only semi-transparent, if anything. But burnt umber is sort of a bit more transparent than the others. More than the siennas. I wouldn't go anywhere near yellow ochre. Raw umber has a certain cloudiness to it. So I might get some burnt umber out. I'll get some clean spirit out as well. First things first. Let's have a nice clean piece of glass. So I haven't had a blue yet. Oh, what I have, I've got the Prussian blue. I haven't got a transparent red. So my transparent red will be alizarin.
Josie's already messaged and said, hi James and Graham, did you paint these yesterday?
No, so these were painted a good few weeks ago. So it's not properly dry. Okay, we can have a look at a few interesting things. I'm going to put some alizarin out before I start. Or, hang on. What can I use? Might have some Scarlet Lake, which would just be perfect. Is this it? I don't know because the labels come off. Oh, there we are. Lovely transparent colour. What I think is Scarlet Lake. Can't really remember. Oh, it's all oily though. Okay. So this is an interesting thing. When we talk about a painting being dry, obviously this is touch dry. I can smear my hand around on it, nothing on my hand. Always good to check your hand before you do that, especially if you're an oil painter. There's a strong chance your hand was already covered in paint before you began, and now you don't know what's what. But yeah, I can move that around. Because it's been out for a few weeks, and I'm probably smearing a bit of grease and grime on it and all the rest of it, I will want to give it a little bit of a sort of a degreasing, which I can do with a bit of, oh hang on, is that too? Is my spirit not clean enough here? There you are, so there's not much showing up on that. Not much colour in it, but if I were to take this same brush, let's go into a bit of this grey over here. Just give it a bit of a wash. I'm getting the grease and grime off it. Nothing showing up on the brush. But if I get some rag and I give it a bit of a wipe, you can see the colour coming off on it. I don't know how well that shows up. And I really can actually sort of start wiping it away. So you can see there just how much is coming off the surface. So it doesn't look like much is happening, but actually quite a bit. Let's just to prove my point, let's get some of that pink off. I'm not putting loads of thinner on or anything, but just give that a bit of a wipe. You know? So that colour is coming away. It's only a small amount of it. When they talk about a painting being dry and a painting being cured, they're different things. This is still reacting with the air. It's still an uncured surface of paint, which means it's not ready for a proper varnish yet. A touch-up varnish you'd get away with, but
So how long will a painting take to cure?
about 6 months,
Okay.
depending on the thickness. Something like this probably a bit sooner, maybe 3 months. But this, I did this several weeks ago, and yeah.
So, like by doing what you're doing this evening, will that sort of reset that 6-month period?
Yeah. So I've got some, runny paint that's going to start to interact with that, those bits of the medium which are still kind of mobile. I can give it a soft wipe, and this is really just sort of dissolving the grease and grime from the air that's built up over time. If I really worked at it, I could probably really start to smudge some of the paint that's in there, make it go a little bit duller. Look, you can see some of that wiping across like that. I don't know if you can see that there. But either way, when these thinners evaporate, I'll have a surface which will take some oil. If it's not, and it's still got this layer of grime and grease and whatever from the air that's built up over time, the oil can sort of ball up into little, well, balls really, like sort of like water on a wax paper sort of thing. It sort of gathers up, and if you put it on too thick, it can go a bit wrinkly and all that kind of thing.
And it'll get that much grime in a couple of weeks?
Well, it's only because it's only a surface. It only has to be super thin, and this happens in lots of ways. If you think about cutting a metal, there's a reason it's really hard to weld to aluminium, because the moment you cut aluminium, the surface oxidizes immediately, and then you're trying to weld to aluminium oxide, which is much harder. So and so similarly, there's just little bits of dust and stuff that's just in the air. It forms a tiny, tiny microscopic layer, and that's enough for those two surfaces to not meet. It becomes a kind of a super thin barrier. But it's also very easy to overcome, so that's gone now.
Skinflower music, that's Matt, isn't it? He said, "Good evening, James and crew." So we've got another 4 people behind the cameras here.
You are my crew, Graham.
Yes. Got the banner.
Yeah. I was going to say like a co-pilot, but I don't really need a co-pilot, so you're more of a stewardess, really.
Yeah.
But bathroom attendant, that kind of thing. Okay. Be nice. Oh no, that's not my nature, is it? I'm such an idiot. All right, so I'm gonna
J Buds and G Unit. This is what Matt's just said.
Who said that?
J Buds and G Unit.
Right.
G Unit I get called quite a bit.
Is that our hip hop names?
I think so, yeah.
Right.
Album's released next week. J Buds. Oh, I might call you that from now on. Alex has taken to singing at you or serenading you whenever you come into the shop.
That's, I don't know. It's just an effect I have, isn't it? Yeah. Right, so I'm going to want some clean spirit, so I will sort that out now. Will only take a moment. So you've got the view of the studio now, so you can at least. Oh,
You can see that he's actually doing something in the background.
yeah. See where I'm going. That should be enough. Don't think there's anything under here.
So have you been painting much this past week, James?
No. I was doing little sort of muck about bits and pieces, but I haven't done anything proper. I haven't sat down with serious intent for a little while.
Where do you draw the line, or where is your line of sort of, I am sitting down to do a painting of serious intent, and this is just a muckabout?
I'm always painting one way or the other, and the default approach is this is me mucking about, seeing what happens.
Okay.
And once something starts to happen, then it sort of demands the next step, whatever that may be. And I go, oh, I need to do this next, or I need to do that or the other. And then at a certain point, it becomes, you know, sometimes I'll think, oh, well, I'm going to do this seriously now and do a really good job on this, and it's a disaster. That happens quite a lot, actually. Yeah, there's still this thing of at what point. I suppose there's a process, and an awful lot of the process is sort of mucking about stage, which is you're asking questions of the canvas and the image and all that kind of stuff, and it's answering them or telling you no or whatever, you know, it might be. And then at a certain point, you can get enough useful answers and say, oh, okay, well, I'm going to do this with it, I'm going to do that with it, and that's when you really start to make a useful, sensible image. Okay. So things I want to do to this, I want to make it a bit more purpley. Now I've got this Prussian blue here, and that's going to make a really dull purple. So this is effectively going to be my black. I'll put some of this, oh, actually that's quite clean. Permanent rose, this might be. I think it's permanent rose, actually. Yeah. Anyway, very transparent. You can kind of see by the way it spreads out on the, you know, where it gets thinner on the palette, sort of lacks granularity. And because it's very transparent, you're not getting the real colour out of that. But you can also create this sort of looking down a well type of darkness. So I'm going to put a bit more of that red in there. So again, I've put quite a lot of red in, only a little bit of blue, and it's still pretty blue, but that's just on the right side of things. I'm going to pop that there, and I'm going to remix some of the other colours that I'm going to need later on, at least to just get a kind of a recipe, or at least to have them on the palette so I can see more of them. So if I go all the way to my brighter lights, so that's a bright light there. It's become a bit duller, but that will be my bright lights right at the top. So it's going to get a bit more. Oh yes, other things. So flake white, really, really useful in a glaze. It just reacts with the oil differently. I'll pop a bit of that out. And what else have we got? I've put everything everywhere. Okay. Bit of titanium white. Mixing white is a bit chalky, a bit cloudy, so I won't be overdoing it with that. So if I take a bit of this and make myself some of this neutral grey underneath, it's like that, but it's a, well, coffee. It's pretty close. That's just raw umber, and that's why there's a little bit of blue in it. Raw umber and white, yes. There's a place where it becomes a little bit more violet. So the tiniest amount of this in it. Well, that's tons, isn't it? Oh, it's not too far off some of them. That's way too bright. Let's tone that down. And that's kind of purpley grey. Actually, a little bit more purple than that. We can bring it back the other way. How's that looking? Pretty good. Yeah, almost indistinguishable. So I've got my purpley shadows there. I'm also going to want some of this browny colour.
I know you're sort of middle of colours at the moment, so apologies, but if I don't ask the question, then it will go out of my head. But at what point would a painter look at a painting that they have done and go, you know what, I'm going to play with this rather than start afresh?
I think it's when I'm quite happy with the colour balance in this. It's about the marks and how the marks go on. So what I've done is I've essentially decided this isn't the finished painting, this is a ground. And this is a ground I've already had a play at doing some details into, and they haven't really worked out. Not really happy with them. Just going to add a bit of yellow to that. Okay, can do a lot more than that. That's on the yellow side. Let's bung a load of let's bung a load of this in. Okay, now we're getting into the yellows that go in there. I think we can go one step further. Sorry. Yeah, so I'm sort of going back to the blocking in stage of getting the core colours, but I'm going to apply it in a different way because I've already got a non-absorbent surface here. I can sit more colour on the top. As long as I can figure out roughly what goes where. Over here, I've got these reds. I'm going to just get a bit of that. This is very, very bright, and it's not the colour I'm going to use, but until it's held up, I'm not going to see what it's doing. I'll put some of that there for mixing. I'll put a little bit more brown in that as well. So it's a very dark red, which I might yet want to utilise. Ooh, maybe in a few places. And then out of that can come slightly pink, slightly more of that yellow in it. No. So is that all right for the orange up there? Oh, actually, that's pretty good for the orange in there. The lighting still isn't quite right. So obviously the flowers aren't in exactly the same place as they were before. So I'm just using that as a prompt to see colours and this, that and the other. But actually, that's not grey enough. Take a bit of this more umber and put it there. That's probably a bit more like it for my peachy colour. Yeah, that's pretty good. Now I could get brighter than these, but I can see where those core colours are. Get back to these greeny ones, that's good. That's pretty much what I've got on here, recreated. What else am I going to need? I'm going to need a little bit of that background colour. If I try and match it up, it's all darker than this. Add small amounts of blue to this until it's a bit greyer, a bit greeny. Can I make a nicer colour than that? Maybe it needs some oranginess. We'll give that a try. A little bit of red. How's that for my light colour? That's pretty good. It's a bit too sort of gungy. Could make it a more crisp green. But actually, no, I think I'm going to make it a little bit more pink. Stroke yellowy. Okay, that's the direction it's going to go. That could sit quite nicely behind here. Yeah, okay, that's wandered into a more wholesome colour now. But I've got a context, which is pretty good. I'm going to want some burnt umber to use as a transparent brown, and then I'm going to mix up some oily paint, and I came over here for something. That's a new tube. Do I need a new tube? I've already got some open. Maybe I should just open a new tube whenever I need any. Oh, what's this? That's in red. Venetian red. No. Oh well, I swear I've got a tube of this somewhere, but seems as I can't find it. Guess we'll open this one. Yep. That's decided then. Was I in the middle of answering a question?
No.
Huh.
You'd answered the one that I was asking you about.
Exciting new brown. Really, this goes with the oranges, but yeah, I'm going to put it here. More of a reddy brown, burnt umber. Now, new tube, so oh, that looks a bit more cloudy than I'd want it to be. Let's try adding something to that. Oh, that's a nice warm, slightly bluey purpliness. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is mix a quantity of oil with this. This is, I believe, linseed. It is. And sometimes I put a little bit of turpentine in there as well, or Sansidor, or something like that. But actually that's okay just as it is, I think.
Your camera's gone off on the mixing.
Oh, thank you. Oh, there it is. Goodness knows what I was pressing. Okay, so I've got this sort of really oily, gloopy sort of you can really see the colour of it now. Is that the kind of flavour I want? I think so. But have I got enough of it? That's the question. And I would suggest no. I'm going to do a little bit more. So, same recipe. We'll have that. We'll have some of that Prussian blue. And a whole chunk of that red. And again, this is sans oil. It's a bit too red there. A bit more Prussian blue. Yuck. Look at that. Actually, it's quite good to have that unmixed, so I can sort of add to this and control it. But I will take a bit, mix it in here. There we go. And ooh, you know what? Tiny little bit of oil. If I use a tiny bit of thinners, that will evaporate, and it will leave a thin layer of oil behind, which will affect everything that goes into it. So once that's in, still probably not enough, but what fun. Right, oh, here we go. Ah, there's a bit of some kind of string in there. A hair or something. There we go, I think I've got it. And then this is the important bit. You have to be very careful to make sure you only get the paint in the right places. So what I like to do is use the force, right? So I close my eyes like this, okay, and I just feel where to put the paint, and I trust that I'll just be guided to like just get it on somewhere into the right places. I can feel that it's landing in the right places and making the painting better. Just as you go along, just feel your way in. That was good. I'm going to put a bit more oil in that. Quite a bit more oil. Quite a bit more thinners. Oh, maybe not quite a bit. Just a little dab. Just a few drops. There we go. Doesn't take much.
I feel that you need to explain your technique of that as well.
Well, the technique is you just need to get a surface of this stuff on. You can see how much it's sort of carrying paint into the surface, and even now I can just let's get a clean bit of rag. Let's get a spatula as well.
Yeah, spatula.
Okay, so I can remove that and spread it around. Okay, remove it from here. Okay, and in here. In here, let's get a bigger spatula.
So, Matt has just said, this always gives me an anxiety attack when he does this. And Josie's written in, act of faith, ...
Yeah, it is. That's exactly what it is. Yeah, let's put some more of that there. And yeah, hopefully it won't go horribly wrong. And if it does, it's only a painting. So everyone relax. Yeah, it's this kind of cavalier attitude lost me my job as an air traffic controller. Now, I don't want to leave that on too long because it will kind of stain the surface. But I also want to get it all the way around the edges. I definitely want to get it sort of down into the corners whilst avoiding getting too much dust and fluff in it. Up here, and there. And that. There you are. It's starting to.
Yeah, it's really starting to come together, isn't it?
Yeah. But the more it becomes even, the more even that surface becomes, the more evenly spread the paint is, the more the image underneath starts to peek out. It's very hard to see at the moment. I'll tell you what I probably will need to do. Oh, good. Yeah, I can do this. Right. Oh, has that got rid of the shine?
A little bit, yeah.
Or is that more shine, less shine? Ah, that's probably
better. Yeah.
probably something like that. Oh, that's probably more shine. Oh, yeah. Let's get that right in there. Getting all the way to the edges. I can see little bits of little bits of fluff and stuff that can be sort of removed. But when I go over it with a piece of rag, that'll pick up a lot of those. And back in with the spatula, let's just get that spread out in all different directions, especially out from the middle. Some big gestural marks. There we go. So you get some really quite beautiful swirly shapes with a rubber spatula, so I'll keep some of those to go in behind. And you can gradually see this image start to emerge. So just get the excess off that. I'll keep the brush loaded for the moment because I might need to put a bit back in. I'll get another glove on, I think. There is one here. No, that's bin worthy.
This end, I think.
All right, I'll come round. Thank you.
I'm genuinely fascinated by this.
Okay. Well, let's go back to where some of those lights were and start pulling them back out. Now, I was talking about how I had these sort of hard edges, how I had that sort of that overly frozen ice, soft scoop sort of feel, and I wanted Mr. Whippy. Now, this might look like the whole image is re-emerging, but it's all darker. And there's a lot of lost edges. And some of those edges are less important than others. Something over here. There's some lights here. I've still got these darks, remember, that I can bring back in, and that's going to tie in. So I'm still at liberty to manipulate this oily layer I just created. Even if I wipe too much of it away, I can put some of it back. There you are. So there's definitely extra lights over here, and probably here. There's some greens and bits of leaves, and oh yeah, starting to pull that out. It's starting to re-emerge. Let's pull a bit more of away from just around this side of the image. Let's sort of soften that light bit and around towards the middle. Oh, you can see some of those yellows coming out now.
So has this technique got a name?
It's just glazing, but what I'm effectively doing is I'm making everything darker all at once. So if I have the full range going all the way from black to white of tonal values, and then I put this grey shade over them, it can't make the blacks any blacker, but it can make the whites halfway towards grey. So all those relationships are now squashed into a much smaller area,
Right, okay.
which is more difficult to judge. So if you're starting off and I said, here's 20 different greys, which one goes there? It'd be really hard to place it. But if I said, okay, you've got 3, it's a dark, light or medium, you'd have a pretty good chance. This crams your dark, light and medium into dark, light and medium. It means we've got a light, dark, light and medium we can add on. Suddenly we've got all these other increments of tonal relationships and stuff which can all sort of talk to one another. Yeah, there's a stalk in there, so I'm not going to put too much into it. A little bit, just pull a bit of that jug out. Okay, don't want to overdo it, but we'll put in a few gestural marks. Take away some of those little bits of spatula evidence. That's lifted quite a few of the little bits of fluff, and yeah, you can get a lot of dust stuck to this. But I'm not worrying about this being a super finished piece or anything. There you are. So I can put in. So I
fluff around and find out.
I used there. There's a sense of a movement of light here now. That's quite nice. I'm going to keep that little streak in there. There you are. Okay. Because the jug was already quite dark and already painted adequately well, I can take more paint away from that. Let's get another piece of rag. Let's find our way back into that. There we go. Okay, now that's there, there's a few things I'm going to want to think forward to. One is, because I've got this oily surface, I need a sort of sympathetically oily medium with which to deliver some of these other colours. So now I look at it, there's places I want to put in some extra yellow. I'm going to put a bit in there. A bit of that on the inside. Okay. There's a few extra lights out there. There's probably a few in here, but right. Let's get this Let's do some of that yellow, shall we? I'm going to get some transparent yellow. Just a tiny bit on the brush. No oil even. And just say, what happens if we put a bit of that in here? It sort of melts into the existing glaze. So that colour is going to sort of mix with whatever goes on top. It'll be a bit green when it mixes with the blue. It's going to be a bit orangey when it mixes with the, you know, sort of warmer colours. It's also going to pick up some rather sort of shiny yellows when it. Yeah, let's do the same thing with popping a bit of red on top as well. Let's go for, where's my maximum red? It's sort of in here. It doesn't look like it's doing a lot at the moment, but this is all the colour I'm going to need going forwards. This is going to mix in with what goes on top. It's all going to be quite fluid. Anything else with that? No. Oh. Go ahead to a few of these. I'm just going to dab the brush in oil as I go and try and get it to a good consistency. Where's that going to play?
So do you need it slightly more oily for doing what you're doing?
Yeah, well there's already oil on the surface, so where would I put it? You want it a similar consistency so it mixes in. Okay, where's that going to have a bit of light there? Oh, a bit too warm maybe. There. I'm a long way off the white here. I'm working towards it, so I can, yeah, splash in. You see, it's got this sort of smoother quality to it. I can actually make that even thicker. And no, that's not it. It's cooler down here. It's just sort of warmer in the middle. I put a load of these warms in. Just try and get the language of the flower and the petals and how they sort of go together. Right. Where else? There's a bit in here as well. Let's put a bit of that light in. It's hard to tell. Okay, that could have done with a bit more oil. You can see how the brush marks are changing quality. These are a bit sharper. If I wanted to put a few more sort of more fluid ones in, I might do them like this, and you can see they blend in with what's behind a bit more easily. Still a long way from the bright highlights. I don't want to jump in too far ahead too soon, but there we go. And so these have got like a soft edge to them, these sorts of marks. Do give a certain, what would you call it? Yeah. A bunch of that in. Let's go back to my pink here and put a bit of that in there. Not enough. Go with that one. Yeah. Oh. I'm turning up the colour a little bit. There's some pink, something like that. A couple of dashes in here. A lot more orange. Is that too much? A bit too much, maybe. There we go. Yeah.
Josie has said, so I thought you just glazed, but the aim is to carry on painting?
Yes, but the underpainting is still the underpainting. And I can work away at this as well. I can decide I don't like bits. I can sort of smear them out. Yeah. So it's not just putting one colour on. It's, well, adding several, I guess. Yes, there's a bit more warmth to that. A bit too much. And these sorts of, these sorts of marks have got a much more flowery quality to them. And they're not really much different to the ones I was doing before, but with a very different sort of consistency of paint, and therefore sort of finished result of how static and deliberate they look. I'm going to go across one little bit just to this grey one over here. I can see some colours in here. And in here. Where's that going to go?
Do you find it more difficult painting something which, obviously in real life, they'd be alive, and you're painting a fake?
Oh, is it harder because they're fake flowers?
Yeah.
In a way, because it's how you respond to them is different. But
because you're still trying to give life to something which has never been a...
Yeah, but the design is, it's a bit like painting a waxwork of a person. You've got all the same challenges as painting a person. It's never going to quite come out the same as if you had a real person sat there chatting away to you while you did it, and, you know, sharing their life stories and all those kinds of things. But the problem solving is the same. So as a way, if you were practicing a way to do particular types of portraits or something like that, you'd work from a photograph or, you know, an image or a cast or whatever it might be, in order to try out different ways of looking and different ways of making marks. And you'd answer an awful lot of your artistic questions by doing that. So yeah, I hope this can pave the way to me doing some rather better pictures of flowers. In the future. Yeah, so there's this sort of softness to this, and then it does get browner. So I've got this oily surface and I'm just shifting colours ever so slightly as we go along. Yeah, what's that doing? Doesn't know. Oh, so lighten it a little bit. And again, it's sort of the subtleties of changes in tone, and because I've got all that stuff going on underneath, I can kind of have a bit of fun with this, including in here. You even get a bit bluer there. Now here's another thing that's interesting, is I've got this sort of blue accent light, which was a rather ambitious thing to attempt in the first place. but I brought it back again. There we are. So there's some greys going over the top of the yellows I've put in, but it's still going to show through the gaps. I've got some shapes emerging as well. Now it's where those bright lights come in. It's going to make a real difference. That's going to be browner. That's part of my background colour. Made me put that there. Yeah, none of it gets that dark. These sort of frills and what have you in these petals as they go around. The highlights can go in there afterwards. What else should we have? Let's get another brush on the go. I think this one feels good. Let me get a bit of oil. And I'm going to get a bit of this flake whiting. And that really kind of, it behaves very differently around oil than titanium white. And it's really good for very subtle shifts in tone. Well, the tiniest bit of blue over here. Just mix them up there. Now, it looks like a bright highlight colour, but if I put it in here, it sort of mixes into that surface straight away. And I can sort of start to put a bit more colour in it. Okay. There we go. Well, that's probably too much, but yeah, the more I go along, we can put some more blue in this. Yeah, I'm overdoing that. A bit under there as well. As I go across, it will gradually sort of should weaken. Pop a little bit in there as well. Oh, where else? Follow that across, actually, in the inside of there. A bit of here, that'll do. That'll do. Oh. Streak on that. So you can see the image sort of starting to reappear, and it looks different to how it did before. And it's also still a bit clumsy, so I'm going to go with a spatula some bits just to soften a few edges. I'm going to give it back some of its floweriness. There's not enough paint on there to make a difference, which is good. It means I've got room for that next layer. If it gets too gloopy and oily too soon, there isn't really anywhere for me to go, but that'll be okay. Wakey cakey. Okay, I've got some of this deep red here. Let's see what that does. Works pretty well actually for around here. Make it a bit more orange over here. Bits in there. And in a sense, there's a lot of answers we're not going to get until such as the time as I put the bright highlights in. So maybe I ought to sort of jump ahead and try a bit of that soon. Yeah. How's that working? A bit too much. What about this side? This side doesn't really have any pinks. Oh, I'll tell you what it does have though. That's Roger blue right in the middle of that. Okay, I'm applying paint with this spatula now. That's probably not wise. And Right, let's go back to these grey yellow colours. So what are they doing? Used to be yellower. All lights over here. Okay. I'm going to use a little bit of titanium white. A little bit of this yellow. A little bit of the flake white in oil. Let's get some of those pinkish highlights in. Okay, now that's giving a contrast which is closer to what we're going to expect at the end. And it really changes things. Oh. It's coming up. Where else can these go? So if it's an afterthought, those sort of secondary marks sort of blend in a little bit. And produces a different kind of effect. Bit of that. See, so as I move along, I'm adding lights, but they're not as powerful as they were at the beginning because of that oily surface. So it has this interesting sort of forgiving quality to it. Oh, I already hate that. I hate it already. But as I go along, actually, I can actually do the shadows with the same brush. Once it's ready to sort of go down a layer. Definitely needs to be yellower, especially for some of these. Maybe even greener. Be really cheeky, put a bit of green in that. There's a sort of a language to the flower which is emerging. Still not 100% with it, but that's quite what we want, but yeah, maybe in here contrast was too high. What else? Maybe in there. Yeah, once it's all sort of lightened up on this side. Maybe there'll be room for the bright lights. Which, if I recall, we're over here. There you are. Oh. Even thicker than that. You know what? I'm going to go full impasto now. Just lay some thick paint on top. Have an edge on that. Just there. A few other bits. Especially on the inside. That's it. I think that kind of works. Ah, am I happy with that? I need to take a step back. I don't feel like I am. Oh, tea. If I take a step back, I'll probably realise I dislike it in a completely different way to what I thought. Oh yeah, this is going horribly.
Why are you saying it's going horribly then?
It looks awful.
Well,
I think I know why. I think it's simpler shapes. Okay. Right. I don't know I found. I mix some of these really quite nice yellowy greys that go underneath everything. And it's almost like I need a whiter surface for them to go onto. So, yeah, I'm going to paste some of these in. Soften that down again. A few of those darks can survive, but honestly, most of them can go, including, and also add some of this yellow back in. Yeah, let's have a few bits in here. In here, that's really. Really throw that in. Okay, so that's my greys. If I can solve this, I can sort of carry it on everywhere. Not yellow enough.
and you weren't painting with the spatula.
Yeah, I do from time to time. Okay, these are all going to be shadows. And these shadows can go on top. And these are going to fit in around here. Really just got to close one eye and blow my vision on this one. Maybe do some individual marks. So, hang on, talking about that green earlier. Maybe a greeny grey goes into here. It's good. Where else does it go? So it goes into here. Is that dark enough? Probably not. More purpley grey colour over here. I'm going to give a few of those edges. That's actually not too bad. Green greys. Again, it's going back into overly frozen soft scoop. There's not enough paint there to spread out when I do that. Did nothing. Rubbish. Inside that should be some lights that will give that an edge. Oh, this is a real battle now. There's some light. It is yellowy. It goes under there. That should make things look right. Why doesn't it make things look right? Another question to answer. There's a hard edge under there. A little bit in there. That's not showing up. Make it lighter. At this point, I'm just pasting white straight onto the surface and it's still not quite bright enough. I'm mixing it slightly with the lemon yellow. Okay. Sort of a directionality to some of this. Particular bits which should show up. Why is that not looking right? What about that? Ooh. Yeah, the tonal values are really hard to hang on to here. That should be enough. That's bright there. the bright bit here, and then that should do it. Here's another brush, another colour. It does a very slightly different job, but is almost identical. There. There's no other way to do that. Then it gets really yellow there. And then it gets considerably darker here. Yeah. Oh, this was a bit of a battle, this one. If I get some of these sort of
Do you feel like you're winning?
fluffy lines, I don't know. Sometimes I like to have a game of chess, especially playing speed chess. Occasionally I'll just be concentrating on like improving my position and stuff like that. Then I'll accidentally checkmate the other player. And I didn't see it coming any more than they did, because we were, playing fast. Sometimes a painting can work like that as well. It just pops up and you go, oh, there you are. Hiding there all along. Yeah, it's these sort of subtleties of changes of tone. That was a bit there. This is where it needs to get a bit yellow over there, slightly too dark. There. Oh, I think that's it. That's sort of got it. The direction coming out of there. Yeah, I think I can go back to this side here. A little bit of confidence. It's the right amount of, tonal changes and whatever. I'll get a sense of the light landing on it. You know what? Okay. Oh yeah, just a little bit bright up there. Yeah, that's my little flash of bright light. And just did something I tell people never to do, which is take a little bit of white straight out the tube and put it on. But I know that's the limit now. You can't go any lighter than that. There you are. Am I losing some of this oiliness? The progress of building these lights, and if so, how do I get some of that back? Make that a bit finer. Okay, slow down, stop, take a look. It's not quite right. A bit of oil, and a bit of titanium white. Okay, yeah, there's a bit of shape that needs to go in here. A bit of extra colour. Bit of impasto. Little shake of that on the front of this. Not sure if that's right. Got some of the language of it. Yeah, okay. There's that tiny flash of light there, I've got that. These little frills. What have you? These bright pinks in. Mm-hmm. Maybe over here. That's too much. That's my contrast. No, that'll probably be okay. There's sort of a lack of structure in this middle bit here. Maybe that's not a problem. Maybe. Oh no, that's still quite light. I thought this was going to be my dark colour, but no, not. Maybe if I put a few more darks in there, that'll work. That'll sort of blend in as it goes. Quite nice. Have a yeah, not sure what petals which on here now. I'll tell you what I can do is I can get all the way to these deep darks. Really put some deeper shadows in here. Just where they go. Red than that even. Yeah. Just a bit of structure, just enough to sort of help us to see a flower. It'll be alright. Okay, I think a few last bits here. Go back to that blue. Let's just pop in a few of these edges. I'll have a bit of white back in it. Just there. Okay, so some quite fluid marks here, which are really going to help to sort of create some sense of structure and what have you. I can have a little bit off there, yeah. That's fine. Anything else? No. That's just a few bright pink bits at the top. See there? I want to break those edges of those lines a little bit, so there we are. And then back into that pink. Let's bring a few in there. Not too frilly. Okay, I'm fiddling with that now. That's fine. Yeah, I'm prompting myself to see the shapes I want to see. I'm happy with that. What's next? It's so close, isn't it? It's really close. What's the time?
8:30.
8:30. Great. Chuck a bit of yellow in there. A bit in there, a few bits in there. Liven this up a bit again. Won't overdo it. That'll do. Fine.
Amazing how a battle goes on and then all of a sudden you're like victorious and everything then just kind of like slots together like a puzzle.
There's an element of that, yeah. I mean, it doesn't always happen. There's a risk trying to do it in a 2-hour slot because sometimes it just wants 4, and that's what you're going to have to put in. Until you get to hour 4, it's giving you nothing, and that doesn't make for a.
Because it's, I guess as well at the start, it's one of those relentless. I'm going to keep putting paint on the page.
Yeah, and at the same time, that's sort of what I did before, and it didn't work. So this was having another crack at it. It's got some life to it now, though, which I'm quite happy with. We've got some of these darks from the background.
Yeah, which is actually quite amazing, considering it was only half an hour ago you're saying, nope.
Oh, yes, no, I was a bit grumpy about it then, wasn't I? Okay, I'm going to break some extra shapes in there as well, just to give it a bit of structure.
And I do like the fact how the jug underneath has come out so muted in it.
Yeah, so I'm going to put a bit more into that as well, I guess. So what could I bring out? Well, the leaves are in a very different sort of setup to how they were last time. But it wasn't actually bad. So I'll tell you what I can attempt. I can use quite a small brush for this. Just trying to bring them back out. Ah, I think there's another one there. Another leaf? Yeah. Of sorts. Something like that. No, I don't know what was going on there. Oh well, it's fine because I can put this back in like this. Yeah, not quite sure what went on there, but same thing under here. I'm going to use a bit of this blue. Yeah, while that's happening, bring a bit more blue into here. A bit more under the lip. A little bit under there. That'll be fine. It's ugly. do I do this one? Little yellow. Something like that. Just noodling with it now. Pick up some of that blue from the other side. Drop it in there. Yes. I was reminded of that passage from, I can't remember which book of the Bible it is. It is easier for a man to put a nail through his exhaust box than it is for him to develop a personality. I think that's how it goes. I might correct me if I'm misquoting it. I don't know if all the boy rater noises come out on the microphones, but there you are. A bit of that streakiness finding its way across. I'm going to break a bit of that here. There you are. Make some unsure edges in places where you don't really care if people are looking. Oh, headbutting the camera. Yeah, that's nice. That is an improvement on what I had before. I can do a few other little things like a new highlight to go around there, including on the edge of the jug, and a new yellowy highlight for the other side, which will go there and there, a little bit around here. No, that was too much. Was that too much? Yes, it was too much. There we go. You get a sense of the low light now. I may have lit them more from behind before. All right, yeah. Let's take that edge off. Redefine that. Hey! There you are. Loose grip, very important. Okay, I'm going to wash that now. There we are. Right, if I do any more to that, I'll start to wreck it. This is really bugging me, but it could be that I'm just looking at it too closely right now. I think it needs one more little bit of yellow in there. Nice. No. Now, I suppose this is the next bit, which is how often can I change my mind about something? How often can I shift stuff about? Let's see what that was now. Extra little bits of light here and there. Just a few sparkles just up here. Bit of texture and rhythm, and I'm going to leave that other bit alone. Should I stop there? I feel like I should stop there. Yeah, let's keep that sort of broken apart here. So there. So this oiliness is going to give us a rather interesting shine. Oh, I had this, yeah, I'm going to put a few dabs of that in a few places. And this will be the last thing I do, I think. Right, requires a thoroughly dry brush. A little bit of this dark already on the brush. And we start to bring some of these bits in. We'll get a little bit of movement in there. The more it mixes, the more you get bits of directionality. Bits of the flower going into the background, bits of the background going into the flower. And there's this sense of the light being alive and moving to and fro. And sort of building this image by how it reflects off things. Now, just little hints of how that might work, where it might stop. That'll do. If I do any more, I'll definitely wreck it. That, I think, has got something. I think it's got some life in it. Of course, that comes from me, not the flower. So. But yeah, I mean, I would say I would regard these little these silk flowers as pieces of art in themselves. Someone has designed them, at least with great care, and possibly, quite possibly, some amount of care and intent and love gone into actually making the things, even if they're, you know, there's a difference between a piece of IKEA furniture put together with love and care and one where you just followed the instructions and hated every second. One's better than the other. Not in a very meaningful way, but in a real way. And these flowers feel like they're sort of well made, and yeah, I'm all right with that.
It's definitely an improvement from the start.
Yes. So ostensibly it's the same image, and you'd look at it and go, well, what's changed? But actually, everything's changed.
It's a shame we didn't do a photograph before, wasn't it? You could put it up on the screen.
I think I did photograph it before. Yeah, maybe that's one to edit down. But,
right, are we going?
So I was going to say, if you open a new camera image, so add a new camera source, and add add the Mr. Smoke again, and it'll just go over the top. There we go. And now we can get rid of the reflection. Very hard to tell. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, we're getting close. See those marks, and you can see the sort of the softness that the oily surface gives you, and how things sort of, yeah, they sort of streak in. It feels like the image is a bit cloudy. Does it feel? Does it look clear from where you are?
No, it looks pretty clear. Yeah.
Okay, good. And
Hey.
my assistant, you helping? Oh, it's a little meow. I know you want attention and things, don't you? So obviously I've been instructed I have to go and pay attention to the cat, but I think that was a biscuit's meow. Rather than anything else. But yeah, so I hope that's been interesting and entertaining, and thanks for coming with me on into the unknown.
Magical mystery tour.
Exactly, anything could have happened, and yeah, got a few things pinned down there. So the next painting will be better, we hope. That's how I approach these things. So I discovered some things there which will be useful, and I can stop with that and just get on with the next one. But there's something to it. I think it needs more confidence. There's too much fiddling here, and at the same time, I like that thing of I enjoyed getting stuck into this bit and figuring out what was going on there. Of course, you can't see in your image because it's too bright, but very, very subtle tones and shapes and things like that. And yeah, the immediate impact and the sense of the light coming from the one side and the accent light and things like that. I quite like that. Maybe that's one last bit that can go on. So overdoing it. A bit. Hey,
That's cool.
bit of fun. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for joining us, and we can go back to the previous setup now. Did the little inset window work, or did we go up on that? Oh no, there it is. I am.
Yeah. It's
So, yeah. Thanks so much for coming and joining in and commenting, and
see you next week.